Assalamu alaikum everybody, this is your Arabic teacher Sam and a very warm welcome back to the latest video here on the channel. This is the latest video, the next video in the Verb Conjugations program, because we've done maybe 5 or 6 or maybe 7 videos in that series now, where basically I just kind of taught you guys how to use Arabic verbs in the past tense, and then we're just working through all the different persons, singular, dual, plural, masculine, feminine, through all the past, through all the present, and then there are kind of 2 more videos I'm definitely going to do in this series, this one and one afterwards, and if you guys have any questions or would like me to continue it, then perhaps we will do, inshallah. So without further ado, what is this lesson about? This lesson is about what we call Jazm verbs, or adjussive verbs, I think we call it in English, or al-fi'l al-majzoom is what we call it in Arabic, and really it's more like a case of tenses, a case of verbs, sorry, rather than a time frame. Often we confuse the terms tense and time frame. When we talk about time frames, we mean past, present, and future, and we've done those already. But you kind of have cases of verbs, like in like a Western tradition when we learn Spanish or French or whatever. When you learn the subjunctive, that's like another case of verbs, and al-fi'l al-majzoom is like a case of verbs, which are used for certain things. The way the subjunctive has a use in Spanish and in French, the jussive has a use. So we're going to talk about that. So firstly, we'll talk about what on earth it is, what on earth a fi'l al-majzoom is, and then we'll talk about why we use it, and then we'll talk about how we use it. So first of all, let's kind of do a little map of Arabic verbs and what we're up to so far. So in the Arabic language, we have what we call the fi'l, okay? A fi'l, when we say fi'lun, that's a verb, right? So far we've done al-fi'l al-madi. Madi just means the past, yeah? We've done that so far. We've done al-fi'l al-mudari', which is what we use for present and future. Yeah, al-fi'l al-madi, we did that first lesson. In its, we did it in its singular, dual, plural. Al-fi'l al-mudari', we did in, its present. It's singular, dual, and it's plural. So, but within mudari', we'll come to that in a second, actually. The other one is al-fi'l al-amr. The imperative. Al-amr. Okay, we haven't done anything on that yet. The imperative isn't really used in sentences the same way that these are, though, which is why I haven't done it. But if there's demand, then I'll do it, inshallah. So the past, though. Yeah, we've done the madi, we've done the present, and the future, the mudari'. So in here, the normal mudari', which we've done, is the rafa'. Okay, that's just the normal present tense. There is what we call the nasab. Those are cases for nouns as well. You have nouns that are rafa', and you have nouns that are nasab, that are marfu' and mansub. But then the one we're focusing on today is this, the jazm. The jazm, or al-fi'l al-majzoom. This is what we're focusing on today. So let me clean the board, and then we'll talk about what we'll talk about what it is. We'll talk about why we use it. I think is an important place for us to sort of progress onto, inshallah. So as I say, we'll talk a little bit about why on earth we use it, and it's not only these 2, but these are 2 kind of the most common reasons why you would use this, and the focus is actually around lem, I think, rather than the le and the fel is that's kind of the focus, and the reason why is this one is the past negative, right? That's why I think it's important to teach that at this stage in the curriculum, because we've done different tenses, we've done the negative of them, and in the last lesson when I talked about negative verbs, I talked about this, so that's why it makes sense to do that at this point. But lem essentially just means didn't, really. It's kind of the thing you put before things that are past negative. So you'd use lem, and then whenever you use lem, you need a jazm verb, or a fi'l majzoom, a jussive verb. This la is called lam al-amr, and it's to do with commands. But you often use them for commands for yourself. Like at the beginning of my lessons, I often say to my students, "Fal nabda," fal, or I could just say la nabda. لنبدأ or فلنبدأ. Let's start. If it's an imperative that you're saying, and especially if you're saying like an imperative to yourselves, لنبدأ or فلنبدأ. Let's start. Or if you said something like ليبدأ. Let him start. He should start. ليبدأ, for example. So it's kind of a command, but it's not necessarily to kind of the you. You know, whenever you give a command, normally in any language, I mean, in Arabic, if you say to someone, uktub, you're saying you write, or uktubi to a girl, you write. But we'll deal with that in the imperatives lesson if we do want, inshallah. So that's why we do it, yeah? So we'd use lam al-amr, and that's when you need a jazm verb. This is a jazm verb, by the way, the nabda. Pay attention to the sukoon on the top, by the way. We're going to cover that in a second when we talk about how we use it. If we're going to say something like, I did not write, yeah, I did not write. Lam aktub. Lam aktub. You know, pay attention to that sukoon on the end. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, you know, we've got some reasons why we might use it. That's kind of the context of why we might need a jazm verb. So we can move on and we can maybe talk a little bit about how we actually form a jazm verb. How do we, because it's not always as simple as just putting a sukoon on the end. It is a lot of the time, you know, that will serve you a lot of the time. But there's a few other bits and bobs that we kind of need to put in there, just to give you guys a more rounded understanding of what the jazm is and how to use it. So how do we make a jazm verb? You know, for example, like if you're, you know, if you're one of the people who's sitting your GCSE this year, you have to do a writing exam, right? So if you're in your writing exam and you come to saying you want to say something in the past tense, I did not do something, I did not eat, or I did not drink, or something like that. You know, to say didn't, you're going to put lam, right? You're going to put lam. So if we're using a strong verb, you know, a verb that has 3 consonants, has its 3 root letters, like, you know, akala, for example, akala. We're going to use the present tense, right? Because that's, you know, that the jazm is a type of mudari' verbs. We start with the present tense. We start with like akulu if we're saying to eat. Akulu just means I eat. So we put lam before it. Lam akulu. It's not enough, right? If it's a strong verb, like akulu, or aktubu, or ashrabu, or aqra'u, all we do really is put a sukoon on the end, in the singular, right? If there's this lam, that's what we do at the end, okay? And that's pretty much the rule, right? You know, even to the point that, like in a Western tradition, when we learn this stuff, so some textbooks teach the mansoob or the nasab as the A case, because it usually has a fatha on the end, and call the majroor or the jar the I case, because it uses a kasra on the end, an I sound. This is often called the 0 case, because it puts a sukoon on the end. But that's not all of the time, right? That will serve you with like singular, strong verbs. That's what will serve you. But there's something else we need to move on to. There's something known as the 5 verbs. I'm just going to put 5v just for speed, but it's al-af'al al-khamsa. There are 5 verbs which you cut off the noon that's on the end of them. You know, you remember when we did the plurals, a lot of them end up with noons on the end. You know, a lot of them end up with noons on the end. Like, for example, the ones that they are enti. You know, so for example, if we're going to say, let's use the verb akala, for example, so we just keep it consistent throughout. We would have ta'kul lina. Ta'kulina. That's how we'd conjugate akala. Ta'kulina. Okay, this is one of the 5 verbs. But what we do with this is when it's lam, if I was saying to you, if you're a girl and I'm saying you did not eat, I'd just say lam ta'kuli. Lam ta'kuli. So anti, and then there are 4 other verbs, and I'll tell you which ones they are. That's what you do. Okay, the rule is called hadf an-noon. I'll write it up here. Hadf an-noon. You know, the noon is cut off on the end. You did not eat, lam ta'kuli. But the others are hum, antum, huma, and antuma. Huma and antuma. Those are the 5. Yeah, they're known as al-af'al al-khamsa. The 5 verbs that do this, that you cut the noon off on the end. Lastly, so that's how you deal with the singular. That's how you deal with those 5. Then all the others behave like this. You know, they end up with a sukoon on the end instead of a dhamma. But you know, the reason why I think it's best that we leave it there is because that's all we've talked about. We've just talked about normal strong verbs like akala, shariba, fahima, kabura, that all behave like this. You know, this is enough to do the jazm with all of those. But there are things in the Arabic language which are known as like beginning week or hollow or final week verbs, or al-af'al al-ajwaf, some of you might know them as. Those are the hollow verbs, which basically they don't have three consonants, right? There might be a vowel in the middle. So, for example, the verb like kana or qala, they don't have three consonants, right? So there are verbs like that, and verbs that are weak on the end, they don't have a consonant on the end, like nasiya or baqiya or something like that, which are affected, you know, which are affected by this. And a good thing to kind of just guide you in the right direction, even though we're not going to cover those rules right now, is to understand that the word jazm, when you say that a verb is majzoom, understand that that means that it's sort of squeezed, sort of a squeezed verb. So if you think of a word being jazmed, is the vowels in it kind of being squeezed a little bit? That'll help you a bit, because, you know, you can tell even just listening to yaktubu, lam yaktub, yaktub, it's been squeezed a little bit. And then with these, you're cutting something off on the end. You know, you'd say lam ta'kuli. It's shorter. It's been squeezed more than ta'kulina. And then with the hollow verbs, just as an example, this is like a side note because we've never done these hollow verbs before. But just to make you aware of it, in case so you've got a head start on if we ever do it in the future, inshallah. If you have a verb like qala, which means to say, and aqulu means I say. If we're going to put that in the jazm, you say lam aqul. That wow in the middle is squeezed as well. So there are rules around what part of it you squeeze for which verbs, but when you practice it a little bit and you see them a lot of times, it falls into place, and you guys will get it, inshallah. And we ask that Allah facilitate it for you and your learning of it. So that's everything from this video. If you have any questions, put them in the description, put them in the comments even, and I'll do my very, very best to get back to you. So we're going to do this, and then we're going to do the last category of verbs, which is the nasab verb. So, you know, as I told you when we did this little, did this kind of, I don't know what kind of graph that is, but like kind of just like a map, really. Verbs. You know, we had verbs at the top, imperative verbs, past tense verbs, and then present tense verbs. And then in present tense verbs, there are these three kind of cases of verbs. The rafa', which is just the normal one, the default one that we've done loads before. And then the nasab, which is one that we'll cover next week, and the jazm, which we did today. So in the next lesson, that's what we'll do. We'll do the nasab one, inshallah. So tune in for that. It will be sometime in the coming weeks, sometime the next sort of 5 days or so, inshallah. So I look forward to seeing you guys in that video. So until next time, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.